I hate this channel.
No! No!
Oh yeah, we're going there.
He's history's greatest monster!
You never see it come back. You say that my mind is too fast for eyes.
Hi, I'm MangaKamen, and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk negatively about Persona 5 for some reason.
Can you please stop punching my TV? Why did you even punch it this time?
To be clear, I'm talking about the original Persona 5 and the reasons that hold the game back. And unlike some hipster wannabe, I'm not going to take almost 5 hours to explain my issues with Persona 5, and possibly Royal as well. Now, while this video is negative, I do need to stress that I do maintain that Persona 5 is a good game.
Liar!
Or at the very least, it is an extremely fun game, and I've made it clear that I like the game. If you doubt me, please let me point you towards my video series where I rip apart possibly one of the worst analysis videos about Persona 5 on this entire site.
You're not actually gonna leave all that pointless crap in, are you?
I do want to point out that while there are issues in Persona 5, I don't see them as things that detriment the entire project. I want to make it clear that throughout many years that it took to make this game so I could play it, critique it, and see so many people milk this game for all it's worth that I respect the developers and everyone involved in this game's development, especially since it had to go through development hell to do so. In this video, I'll also be bringing up other Persona games as well as Royal whenever I want to talk about something that has been improved upon or made worse, with a focus on Royal being more the key here. So what better place to start with this video than the start? Now, despite what you might be expecting, Persona 5 Start is actually really good. Not only are we going through the thick of things when we see Joker go through the casino and allowing the player to get a taste of the combat system, because it's a running start. When I first played this, I was ecstatic, especially when you compare this to the opening of Persona 4. For those not really in the know, Persona 4 has a really long start. Like, the story takes about 2 hours for you to get to the more in-depth taste of the gameplay.
That's it! You're on my shit list! Effective immediately!
Persona 5 does have the issue of slowing it down quick after Joker gets captured, and it does take about an hour to get back into the RPG gameplay. But that's not the complaint that I have. No, Persona 5 is a story-based game, and we do need to have some time to establish the plot for us to get rolling into it. No, my issue is that even though we were given a taste of the combat system, we're still given a tutorial that's on par with Pokemon's.
What up, you fat piece of shit?
Thanks, Arsene. I couldn't figure out how to do a physical attack. It's not like I did one of those against the giant bull monster in the casino. Not like it only takes a button push.
Do you understand?
All I'm saying for this part is that while there may be a small inconvenience, it really hinders the badass moment of the game when these tutorials show up right in front of me, especially after I see Joker summon his persona for the first time.
I cannot see, I'm legally blind.
And especially when I was already in a battle that allowed me to fight a shadow before this. Don't take this to mean I think all the tutorials are bad. Stuff like the all-out attacks and holdups do need to be explained in game, but when I just went through this, without having to be interrupted, it's really annoying when the momentum of Kamoshida's castle is to be told, "Hey, this is how your standard attack works," or "This is how you jump." It's not as bad as Pokemon's tutorial system that stops you every 5 minutes, but it can get annoying as all hell really quick.
Leave me alone! Let me play the game!
Now, I'm gonna keep going and focus on the gameplay aspects, more specifically the battle system, and I gotta say, I do love the battle system of Persona 5. It's simple, it's quick, the buttons are mapped out really easily so you can just basically do one click for a certain button and you're good to go. It doesn't waste your time with trash mobs, and the transitions between the fights and traveling through the metaverse are buttery smooth. There's a lot to like about the battle system, but I feel like there's more that could have been done with it, especially when it comes to the harder difficulties.
Oh my god, you got me!
Because one of the biggest issues that I have with both Persona and its Royal Incarnate is that the games are a bit too easy for my tastes. More so in Royal since you get a lot more EXP and money mementos with Jose and the stamps. And don't get me started on the Reaper exploit.
Giving MP for knockdowns and fighting bosses. In most instances, physical attacks just do more damage, they deal better numbers. And this is a numbers game. At the end of the day, the most important thing is making your opponent's health bars.
But there are other things that get me. Let's take for a moment to talk about the mini-bosses in the game. In the original Persona 5, there is practically no difference between the mini-boss and its original counterpart, and more often than not, you wouldn't encounter the shadow until later palaces in the game. But the only thing that was different was that these enemies couldn't be afflicted with status effects. That was changed in Royal, and while I can understand the reasoning for it, it doesn't make for a unique experience and kinda lessens the whole situation when you realize that the toilet demon you fought in Kamoshida's palace is now a common enemy in the space station. Personally, I feel a simple change for this could have been that the shadow had a bit of a palette swap, and you could change the mini-boss's weakness. At least then, the boss would at least have a little bit of an impact, and it would still be a bare minimum amount of effort to put into it other than a stat change. Another aspect that I wish would have been done is the enemy diversity when you face them in encounters. Again, this is good for when you're speeding through palaces and mementos, but when you're looking for a bit more meat to the combat system, then changing up which shadows you face against in the encounters is a good idea. And hell, we see this be done in Royal when the optional paid DLC where you get to face various challenges and shadows whom you can't just wipe out with all AoE attacks. You actually have to think about who and what attacks you want to use in order to achieve that knockdown and do baton passes in order to get more damage output. It actually makes the player think and plan when they fight as well as consider their team composition. However, in the regular gameplay, it was designed to be super fast, which is good on one hand, but when I select the harder difficulties, I would like a harder difficulty. Yeah, I can't punch monkey my way through enemies with physical attacks because the majority of enemies in and of themselves aren't weak to them, and you need to be able to choose your best team for the situation. Speaking of, while this was fixed in Persona 5 Royal to a degree with the charms that you can equip and the Jazz Club which can give you stat boosts, I do think that the rest of the party's personas could stand to be able to have some flexibility in skills and stats. Like, I would love there to be builds for my party, like how you can sometimes choose different roles with these characters. As it stands though, the characters are stuck in their roles, with Ryuji being a beatstick with physical attacks akin to a brawler, Anna is the magical version of that, Makoto is the supporter, and etc, etc. Fun thing that could have been done to fix this would make the card system that we had in the original game. Since the system was used to have Joker's personas get the ability to learn new skills and passive abilities, I feel that could have been done the same way for your allies. And it'd be a nice little side quest to get cards in order to optimize your party. I'm all for customization of your characters, and it allows you to play with various character builds and would give more and more reason for people to go search for skill cards and get the right personas in order to get those cards. It also had a bit more replay value to the game as well, since you could go through different builds all the time.
One more thing!
And while this isn't directly connected to the battle system, it is related to it, and that's the weather system in Persona 5. I like weather. A lot. I like it when it's used in games that can affect the gameplay. And in Persona 5, it's a fun little addition that can add a bit more to the gameplay with like status effects. But I do have a few issues with how it's been implemented and how to make the system more interesting. Let's start with the biggest issue, and that it's way too predictable. You see, in Persona 5 and Royal, the weather is tied to the dates on the calendar, and while I can appreciate that, it's a bit too stiff, especially when you consider something as uncontrollable as the weather. If anything, while there are some weather conditions that are not possible during certain months, I would have loved to have seen the weather in the game be more randomized. And not only would it challenge the players so they could deal with mementos and the random weather effects, but also make it more fun as well because, hey, who knows, you might be able to get more money because the shadow's confused, or you can get more experience because the shadows decide to have hay fever. Then there's the passive moves that's related to weather, because I never saw a reason to use them, especially when they weren't useful in palaces, mainly because the weather conditions don't work in the palaces for some reason. I can understand for how the pollen effect doesn't really gel as can make battles even easier than they are now, but the other weather effects are capable of doing so, and the pollen effect could be easily passable in order to avoid not having pollen effects, because have them during months that pollen isn't available. Speaking of palaces, I said this in my Persona 5 Royal video, but my biggest issue with the palace owners is that we don't get a lot of insight into them as characters.
You can't be that stupid, right?
I brought this up in my video about why Royal is a great game. Totally not shilling for the video, totally shouldn't go check it out, totally!
That was truly cringeworthy.
But considering that the palaces are supposed to be a reflection of one character's heart, born of their desires, I would have loved to see the villains get fleshed out more. That's why I really like Maruki so much as an antagonist, since we actually get to see his journey into becoming the man that fights against the Phantom Thieves. And the saddest part is, we could have had this. There are unused cut content from Persona 5 Royal that whenever you found a will seed in one of the palaces, you would have been given memories of how these palace owners got the way they became. For Kamoshida, it was because he was covered by a company who actually allowed his bad behavior to actually grow because they took care of a woman who he may or may not have assaulted sexually. For Madarame, we see the moment where Yusuke's mom dies and his own issues as they grew to that point. I would love to see if there's more of this cut content, but from a story perspective, this sort of thing would add more to the villains of the story and allow the audience to see the villains in a deeper manner. While I do like the villains in Persona 5, I have to admit they can be quite shallow, and I wish this content wasn't cut from the Royal version.
Yikes.
Like, you got me paying full price for what is essentially a director's cut of Persona 5. Give me more content! Make the money I poured into it worth it, you stupid little...
You shut the fuck
But
up!
also,
You shut the fuck
let it
up!
get you a little bit.
You shut the fuck up! You shut the fuck up!
This will probably be the most contentious part of this video, and considering that I got onto the case of he who should not be named,
But I'm not sorry about what I did. What's my crime? I got bold? And a little negligent?
I am not going to take the risk of trying to take things out of context. The story is fine for the most part, with a few issues that I'm willing to call it out on, such as in the original there really wasn't much of a stink about Akechi when he dies. Like, we see a lot of emotional stuff going on when the Phantom Thieves confront Shido, but after that, we only have Lavenza talking about Akechi when she explains the God of Control. No one brings up the fact that Akechi was being used as a pawn for an even bigger douchebag, or that no one puts two and two together in vanilla that Akechi killed Futawa's mother. While there are a lot of things that people can nitpick about the story, I don't think it really detaches from the overall message and quality of it. People will often say that Persona 5 has a good start, and then the quality of the story begins to falter with each palace owner becoming less and less interesting and personal for the Phantom Thieves, as well as how the story writing gets weaker as time goes on. While I can see where they're coming from, I disagree that the story itself gets weaker in its writing. It's just that when you have a running start like you do in the beginning of the game, and when the pacing of the game slows down even a little bit, it will cause a bit of a lull for the story. Of course, that depends on your perspective. While there are hiccups in the story and how I wish the villains were deeper, I just got done talking about that in a previous section, so I do think the story is good, but however there are a lot of missteps in it. Now let's talk about something else. Now, the Confidants are a mixed bag. While there are some Confidants that are fantastic, others are bad in terms of writing. However, there's a bigger issue that I have with Confidants, especially with those who are in the main party. And no, it doesn't have to do with the Mementos. Yes, Mementos is a plot device, but just because something is a plot device doesn't mean it's bad, especially when it's woven into the plot of the characters and is the reason why the Phantom Thieves are able to do what they can do in the first place. Might as well call the Midnight Channel from Persona 4 a plot device too. No, my issue is with the system of Confidants, and this is something you can apply to the Persona 3 and 4 as well with their social link systems. And that's mainly due to how the Confidants aren't really tied to the main story of the game, especially with the main cast. Now, while this is a complaint that I have, it's one that I do understand from a gameplay perspective, mainly because each story, the Confidants are more often than not their own self-contained stories that can generally be completed on the player's wishes and own pace without having to bog down the main story. This is a double-edged sword, however. While this does allow the player to go through the game at their own discretion and develop their own confidants whenever they want to, with the exception of Shojiro's confidant, who's the only one who you need to wait for and access later because of the main story events. But as I said, it's a trade-off with the stories that are not really related to the main story, save for a few effects. In Persona 3, you had a much more dynamic relationship with the characters with the main story. The most prominent example would have to be Yukari, whose social link doesn't actually open until way later into the main part of the story. That being said, it's annoying how you need a full charm stat just to start the social link with Yukari.
You what?
Especially when there's already a massive time hurdle you have to go through. Really, there isn't much of a way to fix this problem, if you could even call it that, since this is more of a personal gripe and one that I've seen a few people voice online. But one that I think is a bit more muddled complaint, since the opposite is to have more stringent access to the social links. Like, it's possible to get through the social links in a single playthrough. It's not impossible, especially if it's your second playthrough in Royal, and since most of the characters are likable enough that you'll want to get into their stories. I'm certainly not asking that we go back to the model of Persona 3 social links either, where people would be a pain in the ass, and I'm glad we didn't get this trust system in the Persona 5 games, because sometimes these sort of things are just so annoying. Yeah, it's realistic, but sometimes realism in games can make an experience terrible. This one is a bit more complicated because while I like most of the cast, I'd be lying if there weren't some issues with them. Holy hell!
That was truly cringeworthy.
What does this have to do with the video? I have no idea why the fuck he wants this here, but okay. You know. Alright. That's a lot of views.
For the most part, I like the characters. And while in Royal we do get more scenes of the cast hanging out with each other, I really did wish that there was more interactivity between the cast. And for some reason in Royal there's more cut content that I think would have been amazing to have in the game. Like having the adult confidants all meeting together.
We were this close.
Drinking while joking on Joker and reflecting what the character did for them. Like having more scenes with the cast interacting without needing to have Joker there is actually a fun idea. And while Joker is the glue that holds the team together, it's good to see that even without Joker, the cast can get along without him. Hell, more scenes like this would be greatly appreciated since it still shows that the Phantom Thieves are willing to do more outside their group activities as, well, vigilantes. It just makes the cast look all the more fleshed out, and having more interactions with the cast is a great thing in my book, especially when it's a character-driven game. Look, there's a lot I could go over, but this isn't an objective video about Persona 5 and Royal and why I think Persona 5 is a bad game. This is not me saying it's a bad game. For what it is, Persona 5 is an amazing one, and despite that all the bumps in the road that it took to get to there, it's nothing short of amazing and beautiful to play. The sheer fact that I'm able to make a video complaining about the issues that I have with this game is amazing. That isn't to say the game isn't above criticism, but trust me, some criticism of the game can be very out there and not actually applied to the game. And I'm well aware that my own criticisms aren't the scathing reviews that people are hoping for to see. And don't get me wrong, there are harsh criticism on this game that I do agree with. I do think that the story can be rather off-putting at times, especially when it comes to Akechi. But these are just my thoughts and suggestions on the game. And I'd love to hear what your guys' are. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom.